Tight and stiff ankles are more than just tight and stiff ankles because they affect almost every movement we do, whether it's squatting, split squats, walking, or running. When the lower part of our legs, our feet and ankles are restricted, that tightness works its way upstream, which is going to throw off your overall movement patterns, which is going to affect your strength training. As I know firsthand, because I struggled with shin splints for almost 8 months. Constant shooting pains up my shins and ankles made training miserable, and honestly, for me, it all came down to having weak feet and poor ankle mobility. But once I made a change, like switching to barefoot shoes, spending more time barefoot, and focusing on building my foot and ankle strength, everything started to shift. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 3 pillars I use to build strong, mobile, and pain-free ankles. So let's jump straight into it. So when most people find themselves trying to improve their ankle mobility, they usually end up in a position like this. And although it is good to improve dorsiflexion by actively trying to load it, if we don't have the right mechanics in our foot, if our feet aren't working properly, then for a lot of people, we're not going to be getting a lot of progress from this position. So instead, we need to open up all the surrounding areas around the foot while practicing and learning to have the proper mechanics to our feet so we can get as much dorsiflexion as possible. The first step I push everyone towards is a slanted calf stretch. So first of all, if you have the slant board, just come with both feet on the slant like so, and then just actively allow your body to push forward in order to put more load through the calves, even behind the knee, but also all around our Achilles. If this becomes too easy, we can go 1 foot at a time, and you can actually use your back foot to push your body forward to increase that stretch even more. I recommend holding this position for 45 to 60 seconds. If you don't have a slant board, that's completely fine. Find something like a yoga block or any sort of ledge where you can just place your foot on it like so, and then lean the body forward. We also want to look to improve this Caesar position here, and for some people this might be extremely tough. Your knees and feet might be completely screaming at you here. If that is the case, just place some sort of cushion, blanket, hoodie, whatever you want behind your knees, just to reduce some of the load on your knees and really allow the ankles and the tops of your feet especially to open right up. If this does feel okay and if it actually feels like a nice stretch, what I like to do is place my hands behind and lift my knees up off the floor and just really feel that stretch down the tops of my feet. And if you want to make it even harder, which I always encourage people to do, is place your feet on some sort of pad or elevated surface and just go into that Caesar position again. So that way we're getting even more plantar flexion and getting much more of a stretch all through the tops of our feet, up through our shins and into our knees. Then from that position, we also want to stretch out all this tissue here in our foot with this big toe stretch. So I'm going to do it from this angle here so you can see. So think about driving your big toes into the ground and then trying to sit back onto your heels. So it's like the Caesar position, except we're just on our toes, and you're really going to feel this one burn all through your feet. Again, both positions, start off just trying to hold it for 10 to 20 seconds, then push for 30 to 45. Eventually being able to hold either position for a minute or two is a really good standard to be at for full health. And again, improving your mobility is good, but I also think it's super important to learn how the foot functions and how it affects your dorsiflexion. So when your knee drives forward over your toes, this back part of your foot twists in and the front part of your foot twists out. If you lack the mobility and proper mechanics through your foot, what will happen is as your knee goes forward and the back part of your foot twists in, so will the front part of your foot, and your arch will collapse, giving you no stability through your foot and limiting your ankle mobility. Whereas if we have the proper foot mechanics, our knee can go forward and it can keep going forward. So how I'd recommend strengthening your foot mechanics and learning to maintain the arch is simply go barefoot and just practice balancing on one foot. Straight away you will feel your foot starting to wobble, but you want to make sure that you're keeping that big toe pushing into the ground while screwing that back part of your foot and outside part of your foot into the ground. Once you get a bit more comfortable in this position, you can start practicing maintaining the arch while pushing the knee forward. As your mobility improves, you should also see improvements in that drill. Then for training our lower legs, I like to think about it in two parts, front and back. For me, especially dealing with shin splints for 8+ months, I was met with the realization that my shin muscles, my tibialis, simply weren't strong enough, because every time I was running, sprinting, every time I'd suddenly jam on the brakes and stop really hard, all the force of that movement was being distributed up through here, and I simply didn't have the strength to deal with it. So shin splints were a regular occurrence for me. But how I built strength so I could absorb that force was with tib raises, setting yourself up with your heels roughly a foot away from the wall, and then drive your heels into the ground, lift your toes up to the sky, and you're going to feel that squeeze all up through those shin muscles. Ideally we're doing 2 to 3 sets of 25 to 30 reps, and I always like to hold my last rep for max effort. Then when it comes to training the back of our lower legs, our calves and our Achilles, I like to use this calf raise variation. Again, ideally if we have a slant board, that's really good. You're just going to come with 2 feet on the slant like so, and then pretty straightforward, drive your toes into the slant, push right up, squeeze at the top for 1, 2, and then control the eccentric on the way down, really trying to load our Achilles and that lower part of our calf. Again, to make it harder, simply just lean forward more to increase the stretch, or we can go single leg, which is obviously going to give us a lot more benefits, but it is a lot harder. If you don't have a slant board, you can just grab a block, use some sort of elevated surface just so we can drop our heel lower. So again, same thing, 1 or 2 feet on the block, let your heel drop, feel the stretch through the calf and the Achilles, and then push up, squeeze, and then control that eccentric. So not only are we building strength in that stretched position, which is going to help us, yes, build strength in the calf, but also strengthen all that connective tissue at the back of our ankle, but it's also going to help us improve our mobility. So as our ankle strength and mobility improves with all the drills shown previously, we can actually start to improve our ankle mobility through the movements that we're trying to improve our ankle mobility for. For example, sitting in a deep squat position like so is going to put a lot of load through the ankles, therefore improving our mobility. If you cannot sit in this position because of our lack of ankle mobility, you can just grab any sort of slant or something just to elevate your heels so you can get into this position and spend time in this position. If you can get your hands on a little wedge like this, you can use a little book at home, anything you can find, use it, and just spend as much time as possible in this position. And then as you get more comfortable in this squat position, that's when you can start to experiment and
play around with different kinds of movement. So here I'm just rotating my ankle to the side. Just add like any little movement where you can just really push one ankle at a time. The key principle with this is spend time in a deep squat position. Once it gets a bit more comfortable, start adding in little movement to load one ankle at a time and get those extra gains. Another amazing exercise for improving your ankle mobility is the ATG split squat, because as we're trying to push our knee flexion, getting the knee over the toe, we're also really pushing our dorsiflexion. Now for you, this might be really hard because you may lack the flexibility through your hips. So we can also set up some sort of block to put your foot on top of. That way it's going to require less flexibility through the hip and through the knee. That way we can really get that dorsiflexion and really try improve that mobility through our ankles. Eventually, over time, with this split squat, as you start to really improve this movement, you'll start to add weights. This is going to be an absolute game changer for your overall lower body health, in particular your ankle mobility. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like, a comment and a subscribe. And if you are struggling with ankle issues, hip issues, knee issues, lower back issues, whatever it is, I'm offering a free physical assessment where I'm going to break down what exactly your weak links are. I'm going to help you build a roadmap on how you can get there. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to do it, just click the link below, and yeah, catch you in the next one.